Hey, this is Sanyam Bhutani, and you're listening to Chai Time Data Science, a podcast for data science enthusiasts where I interview practitioners, researchers, and Kagglers about their journey, experience, and talk all things about data science. Welcome to Interviews with My Research Heroes, CTDS.Show. In this episode, I interview Anastasiia, computer vision research engineer at EPFL. We talk about her journey into research, into engineering, and also on Kaggle. Anastasiia is a Kaggle competitions master. We talk about her perspective on Kaggle, which is a very interesting one, and her overview of the field. We also dive into her process of approaching research problems and discuss one of her recent works. Anastasiia shares many amazing directives to people starting their journey. One of my favorite ones was if you can remain passionate enough even after the initial failures, you can complete any project, you can pursue any path in the field. And with that amazing insight, and without further ado, here's the conversation. Please enjoy the show. I'm honored to be talking to one of my Kaggle heroes, also research heroes, Anastasiia. Anastasiia, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So there are many interesting things that I'll be talking to you about. I want to start by asking you, how did you get interested in computer vision and deep learning?
It's been a while ago. I've been software engineering and I've been there for a while and I got bored. And after that, but it was really fresh time for machine learning and everything. And there was only one position in Kyiv in Ukraine and I applied for it. And I was working for 2.5 years as an NLP engineer, data science, machine learning. We were building a really cool system, healthcare, and a startup with a great team. But then again, I got a little bit bored and we got more engineering tasks. And I had some ideas in mind for a computer vision project, my own, and I wanted to develop in this area. That's how I started learning. And then I moved to computer vision and I truly love it. I think it's so amazing because we're trying to understand how brain works. We're trying to implement some small pieces, how we do some kind of jobs in a real life or make our lives easier. Yeah, and that's how it happened.
Do you think your software engineering skills were beneficial? Because many people skip that part. They just jump to being a machine learning engineer.
I think it was a very nice transition and it helps me a lot because it helps. I love building practical stuff. I like this application things, doing not only research, but doing application. It helped me a lot in my current position and in general, yes, it does. I think it's cool.
Definitely. Your current job title, it says research engineer, and usually these two words are used very separately. So can you share what tasks do you work on and what does research engineer mean?
Yeah, at EPFL is a very interesting position because my current project, I'm combining 3 roles. I'm coordinating the project. I am doing research, which I love and which is pure fun. And at the same time, I'm a software engineer. I have to build a product, build some software for other people to use. I'm working with people from electron microscopy, and it will be software for them. And that's how it's combined all together. That's why it's really nice position.
Maybe you can start by talking about electron microscopy. Can you share a few interesting challenges that arise out of working with the same? Because I think we look at microscopes, they've been around for so long. What are the challenges that come when you're working with these?
Yeah, we're working with very particular microscopes that able you to see amazing, for me it's a magic, real magic, because you can see nanoscale. You can see how atoms are arranged and you can see defects there. And basically I'm working with microscopy lab. They're doing tomography, electron tomography and electron microscopy. And they're receiving So how atoms are arranged, and there are some defects, and we're trying to reconstruct those defects. And the problem is, sure, always data. We don't have enough data, and we'll never ever have, and we have to deal with it and to live with it. And I think that's the main obstacle. The rest is kind of easy because the data is more homogeneous, and we get images, and they're kind of from real world, they're different, but within themselves, they're kind of similar. So it gets life a little bit easier, but data is always a problem.
Do the architectures differ a lot, generally speaking? Because ImageNet is the basis of all research, broadly speaking. Does the architecture vary for this type of research?
Not really. So it's pretty the same. The idea that the task is very unique. It's very specific. We have some like spaghetti in the air, let's say images of lines, curvy lines. Yeah, there are dislocations in crystals and defects there, and we reconstruct them. And the idea that it's the same segmentation, matching, cost volume, all the thing is the same, but the task is unique and there is no data for it anywhere. And yeah, that's the main thing. But the architecture is pretty same.
So to outsiders, it's definitely like spaghetti in the air. Do you think working with these problems has also made you understand the application better? So, for example, whatever the image is about.
Yeah, I think yes, I think that it really is, and I think it's a specific task, so it helps a lot of physics because it's very applicable for them. By their distribution, they understand properties of metals, so it's very interesting, unique task, and yeah, and the images itself got a lot of information out of it. And it's interesting to try to solve the problem. The main problem for them that you have to acquire tomography, which takes you 40, 50 images. And during this process, acquisition process, something bad can happen to a sample. It can be burned. Something can happen. It's not that easy. And we're trying to narrow this task to get 3 images. So we do now stereo reconstruction out of 2, but we'll get to multi-view 4 or 5 images, and that's it. So we try to make them easier, the process of acquisition and reconstruction.
Okay. I through this podcast, I also try to understand how great minds approach different problems. So, what does a research pipeline for you look like? How do you approach research ideas?
I think there are different ways in general. I love the way I don't yet have a lot of experience, that when you have a lot of information and you get a lot of inspiration and from different areas, and your brain, I believe, is subconscious that actually does all the job, and it's why it's beautifully thing that you get this inspiration aha moment when you get the new idea and you try it and it works. But usually it's also some small improvements when I read other papers and I have some ideas what can be improved, and that's how it usually works for me.
Okay, so I want to connect this with your recent work, maybe dive a bit into that. For the audience, if you'd like to look it up, the paper is titled Image Matching Across Wide Baselines from Paper to Practice. Can you share a bit of overview about it, and how did you approach this idea? How did you get the inspiration for it?
So it's a baseline. I have only small parts of this work. It's a huge collaboration between different teams. It's a huge fun and a lot of joy working with them. And I had only a really small part of work doing there. It's a baselines, and I think the baselines, it's something that we're really missing in general, and have a really good baseline. It's super cool. I think the thing that the paper didn't get to CVPR is like, it's something that shouldn't happen because this one is really cool work. It's a lot of effort. It's a great team that does the job, and it's very practical and useful. So I think the community will gain a lot out of it.
So, what's the challenge with image matching, generally speaking? Because most of the times you look at different platforms, they do an okay job at matching images. What's the hidden challenge that we don't realize?
So for reconstruction, I think the difference is when you have to match different images with wide baselines, where you have a lot of changes, season changes, or viewpoint changes, extreme ones. So it's still some kind of a problem, as we can see out of the competition that we had for image matching. So I think that are the biggest challenges for now. And for reconstruction, I try to use all images, all you have, and that's it.
Okay. What sort of research, broadly speaking, are you excited about? What interests you from research?
I love AI for healthcare. I believe in next 5-10 years we'll see totally different world in some aspects as it will be shaped by technology. So AI for healthcare is like my number one. I have my own projects I'm working on. I'm super passionate about it. And I think that's super important. It's a very specific field that you can't easily get in, and there are a lot of regulations. That's why it's moving really slow. But I think it can gain a lot to doctors and a lot to practitioners and improve this patient-doctor relations a lot. And also, I think education. I truly believe that we don't see it yet, but it will be our future. All these sci-fi ideas that we can learn quickly, that we can obtain some skills quickly, or at least we can have a lot of fun during it. When I was studying law, I had this idea in mind about combining natural language processing to build a game to make it more fun, because people think law is boring. I mean, it's obvious, but I think it's absolutely not when you bring it in a specific context. And when you bring it like a kind of game, people love playing games, especially computer games a lot. And I think building it together, it can bring a lot of for educational purposes for everyone.
Absolutely. So this is also a repeat question that I try to get different perspectives on. How do you think independent researchers who may not have access to good resources, what problems should they look at, and how can they contribute to the machine learning field in the best format?
I think it really depends on personal experience, what they want to work on. It's important to love what you do. It's important to love the problem and to find the problem that you won't drop immediately once you get some troubles. So there, it has to be some passion about the problem itself first thing. And then there are multiple options. If it's something that can be improved, there is a lot of optimization improvement or a lot of different specific problems that can be solved without so many resources. But if somebody wants to work on something that is really need resources, has to find this way. There are multiple ways now. I think we can collaborate on with multiple people. During my Kaggle experience, I didn't have this much resources, but my teammates had, and I write some code, I can launch it on their machines, and it works smoothly and really beautifully. So it's one possibility to find the research area, at least to gain some small amount of money to buy yourself some nice video card to train. It can be enough for the first steps for sure. So I mean, there are multiple options, or going to research facility, to institution, to do some research, or to some collaboration with some companies. That's also an option. So now it's a lot of options to develop. You just need to find the passion, what you're really passionate about.
There's a way. It always goes back to that saying. You're also competitions master on Kaggle. How did you get interested in Kaggle? How was it? How did you get started in your journey on Kaggle?
It was really a long time ago. I really wanted to try different Kaggle problems. When it was back then, only machine learning, no computer vision times. And I really wanted to have this collaboration, to find them people to play with, to gain more knowledge, because it's, for me, the easiest way to gain more knowledge and to get some inspirational ideas out of collaborating and talking to people about problems, about possible solutions. That's how it started. And back on my previous work, where with my teammates, we were trying some ideas. And then when I moved to computer vision, it got a little bit easier because a lot of people that are inspired and want to try new things and want to play in competitions around. And now it's super nice and super easy.
Okay. So usually Kaggle, research, industry, these are very three different things, and you're at this amazing intersection of all three. How do these connect for you, and how do you personally maximize your learning through Kaggle?
I think for me, Kaggle is more about fun. It's a lot of fun and a lot of collaboration with other people. That's how I gain my knowledge.
Do you
We
take it like a
discuss.
game, as you had
Yeah,
mentioned?
yeah. For me, it's like a game. For me, it's just pure fun. I don't take it really very seriously until some competition going to an end.
That's the point where you start to lose sleep.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But I really like that it's like nice platform to try ideas. And now with this kernel and Kaggle, you can not only build huge ensemble, but you have to be smart and you have to think of some smart solutions, pre-processing, post-processing, and all the things that were important before are now back in game. And that's how I maximize for my knowledge. And I think it's a nice thing to have anyway, just for fun, just to try something different from work and different from research, something totally different direction, which can actually lead to some research ideas at the end of the day.
Do you find being from research, you working on computer vision broadly speaking, do you find that to be your advantage, or do you try to see competitions outside of computer vision? What competitions you enjoy?
No, actually, I don't think it's about. I never thought about Kaggle as a platform for competing or for me just a game I play. I don't think about it that I have any advantage. I think there are a lot of researchers and a lot of people who actually play Kaggle for a while, and I think they have a lot of experience. They put their effort on, but I think I take it easy and take it like a nice thing to do and nice thing to enjoy.
So I learned while you were making the transition into the field, you had taken a bunch of MOOCs, massive online open courses. Do you have any recommendations? How would you recommend someone who's looking to make a transition, maybe who has a software background? How should they do it in 2020?
I think now we have a lot of opportunities to learn, and I think it's now so easy and so much easier. But still, it has to go with linear algebra, with statistics, with this background, and that is nicely built. You can build on top everything. And yeah, taking courses, it's super important. Back then, in times when I was started, there was only Andrew NG course, and I think we were so excited, and it was so great at the time that it was so amazing. I mean, it was like also like a magic. And now you can choose. You can just ask other people what they think is relevant and not relevant. If somebody who's not in the field at all, and what to start with, and to have some nice, I don't know, background schedule. I read many blogs when people write about their experience taking MIT courses in a year out of 4 and things like that, when they have their curriculum and everything, and they do it. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's a way, it's all about personal skills and personal ideas. If person wants to do it, he will do it, whatever happens. And I mean, it has to be something that obviously came with a passion, with idea of you have to try and you do, and you'll be successful anyway. So the idea to find and then to work. It's a lot of work, obviously, but it's a lot of gain afterwards.
Which courses would you personally recommend, or again, do you think it's better if someone finds it by themselves based on their curiosity?
I will definitely recommend Linear Algebra by Gilbert Schrank course at MIT. Absolutely wonderful, beautiful. I absolutely recommend Andrew NG course on machine learning. This is the first one. I don't know, maybe there is something beautiful there nowadays, but I can't recommend anything else. So these two are for me like Bible, like something to start with for deep learning.
Okay. How do you suggest, because I think there's this online trap of falling into just learning, which is going from one course to another because you feel you don't know enough. So someone learns, at least in my journey, I learn about what CNN, let me do a course on that, what TensorFlow, let me do a course on that. So how should one maximize their learning while they're approaching online courses?
Actually, I took once Udacity nano degree, and I like the idea about that it's not only theory and not so heavily theory, but so much practice. And so basically this idea that you have to try and practice everything, and even coding from scratch can get the best knowledge. I like how Richard Feynman talked about learning, that you have to explain it to someone else to understand that you understand. And I think the same for practical experience. When you code yourself neural network, you understand how it works. So I think it's important to start as early as possible to do implementation part. But at the same time, it's important to understand how it works. It's not like import something, run. Yeah, it should be a level of understanding how it works in blocks and pieces, and building it, it's a perfect way to learn.
How much of a balance do you think they should be? Because in my opinion, many people struggle with the balance. Either they're too code oriented or too theory oriented.
I think it should be balanced in some way. It should be balanced. It should be both theory and practice. And I think it's what universities usually do, and it's what all these courses now are trying to do. I think they're moving really nice in proper direction in this way, combining theory and practice. So all these nano degrees, as far as I read, they do this beautifully, theory and practice thing. Maybe less theory and more practice nowadays.
Okay. Anastasia, for my final questions, I usually try to ask a tricky question to my heroes. I'll maybe ask two to you. The first one is, I learned through Twitter that you enjoy reading a lot of books. What would be your favorite book of all time if you have to pick one? And you share these quotes on Twitter. If you were to share your favorite quote, a single quote.
About books, it's very hard. I don't have one favorite. I have 10 favorites, 12, 20 favorites. If I would suggest someone and I have to choose only one, maybe it would be something timeless. Maybe it would be, I don't know, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations or Tao Te Ching, something timeless, totally. But personally, I love Ayn Rand books. I don't agree with her philosophy a lot. I really love her ideas. I really love her characters because they're very strong, because they're very, know their virtues, know what they're standing for. I really like The Witcher. I'm very biased about it. I really love this book. But I think it's very, for me, books are also it's about mood, it's about state of mind, it's about what you need at this moment of life. So I love historical books. I think if I suggest historical book, okay, the president, the pope, the prime minister, it's a must read. It's a story not about the 80s, but it's a story about friendship, about loyalty, of amazing people, of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher. I love this period of time, and I think this one is really great one. And science fiction, yes, it's absolutely something. Isaac Asimov, it's amazing books. Terry Pratchett, that's all the books that I would definitely suggest to read.
Okay. And just during this interview, I learned that you're also interested in computer games. Maybe you were a gamer at some point. If you have to pick one favorite game of all time, this is a question that all of my heroes find tricky. You have to just pick one game.
This one is easy for me. It's a Witcher. Third part.
Third part? Not the first or second?
No, I think third part is the best, and I think it's because it raises a lot of moral questions, and you have to make really difficult and tough choices. First one is very book. It's very related to the book for me, so it's very nice atmosphere, and I love the first one. But if I have to choose one, it will be the third one.
Did you find your lab clusters useful to be able to run it at full FPS? Because I know that game struggles a bit to run at maximum resolutions.
No, I have on my PC. It worked fine. I have a nice video card.
Maybe I need to upgrade mine. But Anastasia, before we end the call, what would be the best platforms for the audience to connect with you or follow your work?
Twitter. I think Twitter. It was more personal. Now it's become more public, and Facebook.
Okay, I'll have them linked in the description. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and thank you so much for sharing all of these amazing insights.
Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to give it a review or feel free to shoot me a message. You can find all of the social media links in the description. If you like the show, please subscribe and tune in each week to Chai Time Data Science.